Howdy of you delicious people, I'm here today to review Superman Batman Public Enemies. So, I am to have wanted to tiptoe my way into the DC comic book animated world, and I was thinking of probably doing shows at first, but I'm like, that sounds a lot of a commitment going on. So I'm like, well, how about I just go on and also, before actually getting to that point, I just go on and I am to either rewatch, which probably that's most of the case, but then also kind of watch something new as well of the animated films that I've never gone on and seen some of them. And so within talking about the reasoning of wanting to review this movie is we tend to showcase characters within this film that we never see used all that well ever again. Of course, Captain Atom is to be uh, the guy who is to be very much a loyal uh, soldier of his country, and we have him, of course, at odds with Superman in this film. And I find that to be rather interesting because of how, like, the only time we ever get to see this again would, of course, be in the Justice League Unlimited series. This kind of story, as well as also we rarely ever actually get to see Captain Atom being used in DC whatsoever, with the exclusion of maybe Young Justice, where he's kind of a background character, and that is just to go on and just be so sad how this character could really be used well, but he's not. We also go on and have Power Girl, who has a bit of massive sets of moral compasses that she has to fight between. And we say that because, of course, Power Girl is to have to choose a side, and she is really having that problem. She wants to go on and help out her team of Captain Atom, Major Force, Black Lightning, Katana, which a lot of people will see her and be like, okay, Katana looks very weird. Yeah, like if you've seen her in like the Suicide Squad movie, yeah, Katana looks very different than what she looks like here, and I was very baffled or confused. And Katana ends up having a sword with a soul within it, uh, and she's a very almost like supernatural like character, and goes on reminds me of like the Bowler in the Mystery Men films. But anyways, uh, we also are to go on and have this be a film where Lex Luthor is president within this movie, and we now have Lex seemingly get everything that he's ever wanted, which is to try and defeat Superman. And defeating, I mean kill, because Lex is to go on and put $1 billion bounty on Superman's head, and there is a story to have a reasoning for putting that together. And so we also, while the whole $1 billion bounty thing is also going on, we have as well a massive Krypton comet making its way to the Earth to try and destroy it, which then is to go on and have Lex need to say that he is to have to go on and work with Superman. But really, Lex just wants Superman dead. And so, because Lex is to go on and immediately assume that he is to be the only person on the Earth who can actually handle this whole comet making its way to Earth. But really, we would go on and actually find out that that is not true. We would find out that Toyman also has an IQ that is to seemingly rival Lex's, and we are to, of course, go on and see that all play out in this film. So there is to go on and be so many DC characters within this movie that I am to have gone on and luckily done recent research within encyclopedias and DC comic book databases and what have you, and I still could not have gone on and known every single name of every single one of these characters, and so I actually had to look them up, which was kind of funny. But that is to go on and just say how like I really did enjoy this movie for how rare certain characters are to actually be. Hence why I'm also thinking about Crisis on Two Earths, just because of how very rare a lot of that character stuff is within that film. But so, this movie, to me, regardless of its runtime of a little bit over an hour, like it's so enjoyable. Like we have a lot of the dialogue between both Superman and Batman that is to really connect to how these characters have been friends for a very long time, as well as also to connect to this world, how they're going on and reminiscing about Magpie within this film, who, of course, is a character that has to have very, I would say, maybe a handful of appearances in the DC animated and live action world. Like she was used in Batwoman at one point, and she was also used in. I think there is possibly oh, she was used in Gotham, the animated, the live action Gotham show, and she was very young there, from memory. But anyways, so this movie is to go on out of all the other animated movies to be a stick out for me. I am to go on and state that, like, yeah, this seems like a Superman focused film, even though Batman is also in it. And I really just liked this movie because of the side characters, and really, that's in all honesty about it. And it just has a good enough story, I feel. And a lot about it is actually kind of unexpected, to where you're just like, oh, okay, like we're doing this now. Okay, all right, cool. Um, but so I feel that Superman versus Batman, regardless of how many times I've seen it now, is still a great animated movie. Like, yeah, there is uh, some things that maybe visually, like, is to go on and not quite match up to maybe current modern day comics or what have you. Or there is just kind of like the rocket visual by the end of the thing where you're just like, okay, that's kind of cheesy. But oddly, it just goes on. I'm like, well, yeah, that has to kind of be what it has to be there. So I thought that this movie was great. I enjoyed it. And so let me know in the comments below what is to be your favorite DC comic books animated movie, or maybe even the Marvel ones, or maybe any of the just any of the superhero animated stuff in general. Maybe at some point I'll look into that if I don't know it exists. There is to also be a several load of projects that I'm gonna go on and in the meantime also realize that I need to go on and look into. Like the Sandman just dropped its second season. I'm like, well, I liked the first one enough, so like I'll probably go on and look at that. Um, there also could be a temptation to watch a number of shows that, of course, are to exist now that I still haven't gone on to get into that. So it's kind of very like tug of war of what actually I should be covering. And then also, I just realized that there was a event going on today that I was to actually need to have watched. Oh well, like I'll just do that after this is over. So with that said, let me know in the comments below anything you'd like to talk about DC comic book things. If you were to go on and like stuff like this, other bits of content that I would go on and recommend also. Superman versus the Elite is actually a really good, uh, focused, more of a Superman story, even though he technically has this team that he's working alongside with, and then they turn against him. The opening of that movie has Atomic Skull. For those of you that may like a character like a Ghost Rider, Atomic Skull is kind of this radioactive skull head of a character, and of course that's why he's called Atomic Skull. Kind of pointing out the obvious there. I would go on and recommend Superman Red Sun, just because logically I think a lot of people would state that story was rather popular at a point in time. And also, I think you're kind of forced to need to check out the Death of Superman. And I know people probably get very confused with that because there is a Death of Superman movie, but then there's also another Death of Superman movie that takes place in 2018. The 2018 one ties with the new 52 Superman, and if anything, you should actually go on and watch the original Death of Superman animated movie, where I think it's called Superman Doomsday, or people can go on and correct me in the comments because that's okay. But yeah, but don't go on and watch the Death of Superman that's 2018 that ties into the new 52 one, unless you want to go on and you want to watch all the other Justice League new 52 movie ties in and then go into that movie, because that is to kind of be tied into all those films. And I've seen all of the films except for the Death of Superman one. So maybe I'll probably check out that one as well because I haven't seen it. And luckily, have a number of people that may want to go on and just kind of see any number of these animated titles and want me to either recheck them out or whatever. But so, with that said, I think it's about that time to just rush into the spoilers because I think that that's going to take way longer than it will actually go on and to have described this film and uh, and state my enjoyment of it. So yeah, so if you want a good smattering of characters, this movie does it for you. I really wish there legit was a thing that actually showcased Mr. Terrific well, because I think that's a big selling point coming out of the Superman movie. Also, is to be Mr. Terrific, and like the only time that I've ever seen Mr. Terrific would have to be forcibly an Arrow, or to actually see him in Justice League Unlimited, but he's not showcased that well in that show. He's just a guy in the Watchtower most of the time. Well, yeah, like 90% of the time, like he's just a guy in a Watchtower, and you just kind of like, okay, like who gives a about that guy? Like, honestly, uh, sadly enough, uh, but I'm hoping that that pushes DC realizing what they have there uh, to give us some origin stuff coming from that film, because I feel that more than ever, we really need some actually good showcasing stuff coming out of DC Comics because there's to really be not much of I feel like a real animated show that's kind of going on right now, and that's kind of just sucks because of how longevous of a time that there was one and now there isn't. Or maybe there is one going on and I have no idea that it exists. But anyways, a lot of people may go on and to have never watched the Legion of Superheroes. That I think is to go on and not only showcase a bunch of future superheroes, but also kind of has an interesting amount of just kind of interesting characters within that show. But really, that show is very catered to, I feel like, a very younger audience. Um, but hey, if you want to go on, you want to see some interesting DC characters, then logically that show would also be it. But anyways, let's go on into spoilers, and let me go on and state that I'm to possibly, for how difficult some of these characters are, or some of the names are to pronounce, like Girder. Girder is a background character, and why is he to go on and be spouted within out of my mouth? Because he's somewhere in the background within this thing. There's even a Calypso that is to be used in the far background of this movie, and it's like, is that a Calypso? And I had to go on and legit, like, I had to go and I had to try to find a certain character bit of list in this movie to make sure that it was Eclipso. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I know Eclipso, like I've seen him in my studies of late, and like I wasn't sure if it was that character, so I had to just kind of confirm. Uh, Lady Shiva is also to be in this movie, and she's also in like Batman Soul of a Dragon, I think. Like she's kind of slightly tweakingly different than probably what we see of her exactly in this film, but she's also in that. We would also go on to get really just a lot of characters that I think are really well showcased in the Justice League or Justice League Unlimited show, like Mongol or like Solomon Grundy, or also uh, characters like Gorilla Grodd. That of course would be this telepathic like character that we kind of very briefly see here because he's in the shadows. He's in the background, and then you are seeing that he's kind of doing what he's doing in this film. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. For those of you that know what I'm talking about, because you know his power set. But so, let's go on into this movie because I probably talked for way too much about it. So, with that said, let's go on here. Let's pause this review and say that it's about that time to do this song and dance, which of course is spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil this movie. Let me know in the comments below any DC project that appeals to you. Maybe you want to see me review Superman Returns, because I was kind of tempted about also checking that movie out, because it seems that that movie is to be a lot about Superman who just lifts things. That whole movie is just Superman just lifting stuff, it seems. I'm like, god dang it, how many times do we have to see Superman just lift a plane or a other assortment of items? But technically, when we go on and we see the new Superman film, he's lifting a lot of stuff in there also. So like a lot of shades of the new Superman film and all these other bits of Superman content. So interesting to kind of see that comparison when really looking at all of this kind of Superman content and seeing what possibly James Gunn had plucked from. But anyways, let's go into this. All right, I had just realized also that considering the times have changed it since the movie of this is to have gone unreleased, that there are characters with alternate names within this movie, of which that I will go on and state what their alternate name is. Because, of course, Captain Marvel within this film is no longer to be called Captain Marvel in the DC universe. And his name is actually to go on and be currently Shazam. But I know a lot of people would probably go on and state that, like, well, why don't you just call him Captain Marvel in this movie? Like, it's just easier to probably just go on and just say Shazam. So I hope people can go on and understand when I say Shazam. It's like it's Captain Marvel in this movie. Like, whatever. Like, at least I'm going on and knowing who the characters actually are. Because there's probably quite a bit of people that would go on and take on a challenge like this and have no clue who any of these people are. Sadly, so let's go on into this. So the very beginning of this movie gives us this almost kind of Great Depression style of the DC world. We come to find that people are so desperately trying to uh, break into like uh, newspaper machines just to try to, in desperation, get all the quarters and nickels and dimes and stuff out, all the change, and steal from these newspaper machines. And people are going on and doing protests, and they're throwing bricks, and people are getting eviction notices. And here's the one thing that I found was rather actually interesting, that actually makes a lot of sense for this world. So we are forced to have a lot of people just like they end up losing their homes, because of course they do. We have Superman that is consistently battling it out, crashing these skyscrapers and ruining a load of people's homes. And so we have this just tent lot of people just desperately needing to get by from day to day, so they just have this life that is just to be left with them camping. And I'm like, this makes so much sense when you really think about it, of this world where consistently, like, people are trying to, like, from day to day continue to survive, but they only have this avenue to go about this because, like, for how often superheroes would be battling through these buildings, it makes sense. And why is it that a lot of the superhero world doesn't showcase this more? It makes no sense to me. So we also have tanks and National Guard battling through the city, and all the while we also have Lex, who is going on and doing a presidential speech, because he is to have gone on and trying to candidate himself to be able to become president, and then so he does within this film. We also have in the weekly show a person who I believe is actually voiced by Conan O'Brien, state that 22% of a poll is to go on and would rather have uh, a red hot poker shoved up their butts than to have Lex Luthor as president. So Lex is to go on what it looks like to be like Larry King Live. It kind of looks like the same setup, and this is to go on and instead be NBZ Live. And so Lex is to go on and state that it's like, well, hey, well, tough times require tough men, and more voters will realize they need me in the Oval Office. So we then get a newspaper that slaps upon the screen as everything around it is to be black, and it says Lex Luthor elected president. So we have to probably assume that maybe Lex probably bought a lot of his votes. He probably did. Uh, but also, you probably have like a number of villainous characters that are all just like, hey, yeah, we're gonna vote for Lex. He's gonna get the villain vote, because of course he probably would. So so Lex is to go on and make this huge, massive speech with all these people surrounding around the Capitol, the Washington Capitol, I believe, and he is to go on and mention the problems that they face, and to tie in the fact of the matter of is that Lex still doesn't like Superman. And so he is to realize that there is a crisis going on against aliens and so-called superheroes, and how often they are to go on and be judge, jury, and often executioner. And to have Lex state that no one is above the law, and that he, within his time of being a villainous character, had gone on to then realize that himself. And so when going on and saying that, it's like, well, hey, like, if you need to go on and you need to bring in these superhero-ish characters, well, you need to go on and have some of them kind of fight alongside you. So we have Lex that is to go on and bring in a superhero team of his own, and is to start naming them off: Captain Atom, Black Lightning, Power Girl, Major Force, Katana, again, Red Mask, very different that I've ever gone on and actually seen her. So it was very hard to be like, okay, Katana? Like the Katana I know, or is this an alternate reality Katana? I guess maybe for that time that this comic book was out, yeah, she probably looked very drastically different. So then we go on, and after this whole bit of speech here, we then go on to come to find out that there is a car chase going on between both police, this news helicopter, and this red car. A guy who is going on and driving out of control, and so the news is trying to cover all this. So we have this car driving so amazingly fast that at some point he has to realize that there is a bunch of cars within his way, and he tries to hit the gas pedal, or he tries to hit the brake pedal, to then realize that he is kind of just spinning out of control, forcing then him to be kind of flown from above all the cars to 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 be in more safer hands, which is to go on and be Superman's hands. So Superman is to go on and to gently try to put this car down, and we have Power Girl, Captain Atom, and Major Force meeting Superman to want to have a bit of dialogue between them, to where we kind of see kind of an imagery of that here. So Captain Atom wanted to go on and talk to Superman, and wanted to state that Lex, in some ways, has changed, and Captain Atom wanted Superman to admit that. And so Captain Atom turns to Superman and it's like, well, hey, I just want you to go on and admit something. And all of a sudden, we come to find that the guy within the car is wanting to put a gun against his head. And Superman was like, well, just kind of give me a minute here. So he uses his heat vision and blasts through the car, so that way the guy will stop himself from taking his own life. And so Superman then goes on to put the car down, and then is to face off in a conversation between Superman and Captain Atom and Power Girl and Major Force. So we of course go on to logically have Captain Atom state that Lex Luthor has been doing a good job, and that Major Force is kind of assuming that they're kind of wasting their time here, but like we go on to have Power Girl stating that Lex has kind of made everything boring again, and that Captain Atom and Major Force are kind of going on and making comparisons to prior presidents, and Superman is to still say, well, like, but Lex, like he's this sick individual, and like there's no way that I'm ever going to go on and work with him again. And like the more and more that this team tries to convince Superman to work alongside them, the more of course he refuses and he flies off. So they end up saying it's like, well, I guess he's not the only one with a bit of an ego, or I guess Lex isn't the only one with a bit of an ego. So we now go to Lex, and Lex is to come to find in this kind of base of his that there is a comet making its way to Earth, and it is to, of course, be a kryptonite laced comet. And we, of course, get Lex is like, man, like I can definitely not escape like having problems with somebody or something or somebody from that planet. So they go on to realize that there is to only be 7 days before this comet is to impact here. So immediately Lex is to realize that he should go on and he should try to just fire missiles into it, and like that'll go on and just be his plan. And so all the while we also have to realize that Amanda Waller is with Lex, and she at certain points are going on and like she's kind of being also the voice of reason. It's like, well, hey, maybe we shouldn't go on and just have to rely on like hoping that missiles are going to work. Like, how about we go on and we also turn to superheroes? And Lex is like, well, I'm definitely not going to rely on freaks and monsters to save my world. And so uh so Amanda is just like, well, if you may not reach out to those freaks and monsters, then maybe there might not be a planet left to save before this comet even gets here. So, and then Amanda just kind of walks off. So, there's also kind of a bit of times where we see, like Lex throughout this movie, where it seems he is to go on and be nice, which is kind of weird at some points. But also, like, Lex at some point being nice to Amanda, it seems, is just to kind of build to the fact that Lex is to actually be oddly interested in Amanda. I say oddly interested just because of like we kind of see this like weird relationship throughout the movie kind of build between them, and then by towards the end of the movie we see the two of them embrace in a kiss. To her, of course, it is to be fairly unwanted by Amanda, but Lex is just like, well, hey, like I'm gonna go on and uh, and I'm going to rebuild this world, and I might as well have you with me along the way. And so he kisses her. But so we would, of course, go on to have Lex make this speech about the meteor. I guess I probably could have said meteor. I said comment. Uh, but so Lex is to go out to the public to talk about the meteor instead of keeping it close to the vestiaire, which I actually kind of like that, where he like as soon as he finds out this information, he's letting people know because there are oftentimes we have to speculate of how much in the dark uh, stuff like this would go on and actually be. So Lex is to, of course, go on to state within the speech that he wants to go on and he wants to have a meeting with Superman just in case. Because he has to go on and state that he's like, well, I'm going to fire these missiles, but like just in case, I want to go on and have a meeting with Superman. And at this time, we of course have Superman, who is in the Batcave, with of course Batman, and so Lex is talking about finally burying their rivalry and probably putting things aside once and for all, and working for the good of mankind, and uh, and there's kind of speculation between both Batman and Superman of whether or not he's lying or not, and how really actually like what with what's going on right now, like it probably would be best to uh, have them work together because they're really at odds, but then also it would just go on and state it's like, well, for right now, like our shit's on pause because there's something else going on there. So, but if anything, it's also rather interesting how, like, misdirection of Batman's dialogue. It's kind of rather interesting because Batman, instead of focusing on bearing the rivalry, Batman's more focused on the meteor and how it's actually coming. So Lex isn't lying about that, and that's the thing that it is to seem to have also Batman realize that he has been using his instruments to try and go on and also be following the meteor for the last few days. Here's a goofy thing though. For the Justice League, did they not have like in this world, do they not have like the Watchtower? Like logically the Watchtower could actually be a thing that could actually go on and have been a thing that they could have used because the Watchtower does have like this blast of a thing that they end up using in like Justice League Unlimited that is to go on and make a pretty good impact. Maybe not good enough to where it like could destroy a planet because or a large meteor of the size of which that is be from that Krypton planet. But like when I was kind of thinking about this now, I was just like, well, they did have like the Watchtower, like that had that big, huge, massive uh, blast of a thing in Justice League Unlimited that they probably could have used to just blast away this meteor. But I just don't think that that would probably have been good enough in my mind. But it's still that could have been a thing that they could have been like, well, yeah, like well, we obviously in this world don't have a Watchtower. Or maybe while this movie's going on, like we just kind of have to have them have opposite ways in which to tackle this or whatever. So Superman assumes that if he just throws on a bit of lead and makes his way to this meteor, that he can go on and take it down. And Batman's like, yeah, I don't think that that's going to work because I don't think there's no amount of smashing that um, will stop uh, this meteor, and also I don't think the meteor will take all that smashing. Like, yeah, when you kind of think about it, like if Superman was to go on and start breaking up that meteor, like the meteor would probably just still end up coming here, but it would just be coming in probably maybe smaller pieces. And yeah, like when you also think about it, it's like Superman would have to go on and realistically take a good chunk of time to try to take that meteor down. Like, if anything, I think the better way about going about this would have been for Superman to call the Green Lantern Corps, and the Green Lanterns could have gone on and combined their Green Lanterns rings together and could have grabbed the meteor and could have chucked it into the sun, like how we go on and see in the Green Lantern movie, where Hal Jordan goes on and is to take Parallax and kind of force him into the sun, or also in the Green Lantern animated film that I think is God, the Emerald Knight one or something like. There was some Green Lantern movie that kind of comes after the origin Green Lantern one, where there was something about how they had thrown a character into the sun, and I think they find out that that character is re-emerging and wanting to need to face off against the Green Lanterns. I believe is the case of that film. It's been such a long time since actually logically seeing that film. But the character it seems that they showcase in that film is Orisa, which is to be this kind of young Green Lantern character, which we'll find oddly in the comic books to go to her home planet that kind of ages her up quickly, and then they try to make her bizarrely a a fittable relationship to Hal Jordan, which is kind of very weird when you think about it. Anyways, but back to the story here. I'm going off on too many tangents, and we're already almost at 42 minutes. So I have about 20 minutes to barely talk about this film. So Batman technically actually does have a plan here, but he really has to go on and work with one of his contacts, which we'll come to find later on in the film that it's Toyman. The only problem is that Toyman like needs the uh the numbers crunched to try to figure out uh the meteor. And I think it's kind of weird that like Toyman just doesn't have that bit of information, but that has both Superman and Batman scrambling to try and get it. So Superman is very tempted to go on and at least hear Lex out, regardless of how Superman knows he's not going to give in to Lex. And Batman already knows that Superman is going to go there, and so Batman tells Superman, it's like, well, you're gonna go and you're gonna meet with Lex, aren't you? And Superman's like, well, you know me all too well, and then he leaves. So Batman turns to Superman and is like, well, don't count on me to save you. And he's like, I won't. I know you pretty well too. So we now make our way to this hangar bay by this docks, and we go and have Lex and Superman uh, make our way to meeting one another. And immediately Superman says, well, and Lex is like, well, I immediately knew that would be the very first thing that would be coming out of your mouth. And Lex ends up saying, like, okay, like this crisis, this meteor is getting very close. Like, I'm deciding to send like a dozen missiles to go up against it. And Superman is like, well, like, then why are you meeting with me? And Lex is like, well, some people don't have the confidence in my plan like I do. So, like, if anything, like, Superman is just really just seen as a PR stunt. It's a backup plan, and so Superman is like, well, with everything riding on this, this is actually a good decision. So here's where Lex goes on and is to start to like he wants to like stab Superman in the back and start twisting the knife, metaphorically speaking, not literally. And so Lex goes on to turn to Superman. It's like, well, yeah. So are you gonna go on and work for me? And this reminds me of like the Big Bang Theory episode where Sheldon is working with Raj, and like Sheldon is to say, it's like, well, yeah, like, are you gonna work for me? And Raj is like, well, do you mean like work with you? And Sheldon's like, no, 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 you're gonna work for me. And then immediately goes on and have Lex is like, well, yeah, like, don't you want to work with the planet that had adopted you and taken care of you through all of these years? Like, wouldn't you want to go on and work alongside um, this country? And all of a sudden, Superman is to look at Lex, and Lex's face is just start to fizzle and just start to uh, change here to where Superman is to realize, like, what did you do? And Lex is to be grabbed by Superman, and Lex is like, well, you wouldn't think that I would have come here without some kind of protection from you, right? So we come to find out that behind Lex is to actually be Metallo. It's like, yeah, freaking Metallo. And Metallo is to go on and have green eyes, and we have Metallo open up its suit to realize within Metallo's chest is to be this kryptonite through bits of what looks like flesh, but then Metallo will rip away all that flesh to have this robotic metal skin. So we of course go on to have Superman who is grabbing Lex and kind of tossing him aside. And Metallo, of course, ends up getting upset with Superman, like, well, hey, like, you shouldn't have done that. That's the president. And so Metallo goes on, throws a punch, and Superman grabs this car wheel and tosses it at Metallo. And Superman then goes on to grab the car that's nearby him, chucks it at Metallo, uses his heat vision to blast the car, and the car explodes. And then now Metallo is to walk out of this explosion and is now within his metallic shell. So Superman and Metallo are facing off here, and this really showcases Metallo well. Like, I would go on to probably state that I probably don't remember much of the Superman animated thing because I may have watched like an episode maybe randomly here or there. So there could be a better Metallo somewhere in the DC animated world of things, but I'm just looking at this Metallo. I'm like, man, this Metallo is freaking awesome. So Superman facing off against Metallo here leads to Metallo having in one arm this chainsaw and in the other this thing that goes on and is to kind of like grab uh, Superman's like head and is to kind of hold on to it so that way Metallo can go on and try and chop off Superman's head here. So Superman uses his heat vision to try uh, and destroy the thing that is grabbing the metal attachment that is grabbing his head, and he's grabbing his hand to try to weigh off this chainsaw. So Superman continues to go on and fight Metallo, forcing their path into this graveyard. So here's where we go on and eventually, with leading into this fight, go on into having Superman come in here to try and help, of course, Superman out, because of course, hey, like, Batman realizes that Superman is facing off against Metallo, and I'm sure Batman was just waiting in the shadows to just see how this was all going to turn out, because he knew it was going to turn out sour. So Batman was watching in the shadows, just kind of waiting to see how he can help Superman. Because he knew that he was going to need to help him. So, oddly enough, because they're best friends. So, like, Batman knew he wanted to help out his friend. So, as Metallo makes his way through the graveyard, he is all of a sudden getting thrusted by these gravestones. One by one, Superman is to be grabbing these gravestones. Horrifically enough, how dare you, Superman, be grabbing these gravestones? Maybe he's graving them. He's engraving them himself. He's chiseling out a little love note to Metallo before he chucks them. Superman goes on and one by one chucks these tombstones. And Superman is desperately trying to figure out some way to try and, of course, take out Metallo. And we go on to have Metallo, who is, of course, choking Superman here. And so here is where Batman comes into the fray with his batarangs and chucking them and kind of taking Metallo down here. And these are not normal batarangs, these are explosive ones, so that's the reason why that Metallo is to be taken down so easily. So Batman grabs Superman over the shoulder and is like, okay, we need to get the heck out of here, because like we know that kryptonite is within inside Metallo's body and it's Superman's weakness. So Batman is turning to Superman. It's like, hey, we need to get out of here. And Superman turns to Batman. It's like, what you just did there, that's not going to hold him for very long. And Batman's like, well, I know, but we just need to get the heck out of here. So Metallo, with his outstretched, like really outstretched hand, goes on to grab Batman, chucks him aside, and we then go on to have Metallo lose that hand. I think from heat vision. I think so. Metallo drops to the ground, and there is a shard of kryptonite that falls on the ground, and Metallo is to shapeshift his hand into a hand with a gun. So Metallo goes on to then spot Superman, and he's like, hey, Superman, from me to you, and fires the gun. Going on to have us realize that there is very rare cases where Superman is to have gotten shot with a kryptonite bullet. Yeah, there was an occurrence of it happening in Smallville at some point, and also there's to be an occurrence of it happening in Justice League Doom, or Doom. I think it's Doom. And man, was that a great animated movie! I always want to go on and state that it's such a like the whole contingency plan, the whole story, the whole or Power of Babel, Tower of Babel story that goes into is really rather interesting about Batman and his contingency plans. I should probably go on and actually watch that movie, just because of how good it is and how much I like it, and how much like it comes to find the perfect ways to just defeat those characters. But anyways, so Superman falls with his bullet shot, and we come to find that Batman is to try and put some plastic explosives onto Metallo's back. My apologies. People can get very confused. And so Batman rushes to Superman to try to get the kryptonite bullet out before Superman's wound is to quickly heal. Because, of course, we have to realize that Superman has a healing factor and, like, he can heal very quickly. So Superman ends up asking Batman, it's like, well, what was that explosive? Was it plastique? And again, we still have to realize that not even plastique would go on and take down a guy like Metallo. And so Batman, even though he's talking to Superman, is like, I gotta concentrate on trying to get this bullet out before the wound closes. And Superman ends up saying like, "Well, where is the Flash when you need him?" And it's like, this is not the time for a sense of humor, is what Batman says. It's like, and Superman's like, "Well, maybe it's a time for you to buy one." So the two of them turn to realize that Metallo has now having within his hand a shape shifting, huge, massive, uh, like shovel of a thing on his hand to then dump this dirt upon the two of them to try and bury them alive. We then find that Batman has this light, and it seems that somehow, miraculously, uh, Superman has held up this wooden piece, it seems, that they bizarrely have. Don't quite get how. Or maybe he's just weirdly holding up all the dirt. That I think didn't really logically make a lot of sense to me. And so so we go on to have them realize that it's like, well, like we're not going to go on and definitely try to like get out of this grave and try to continue to fight Metallo. Instead, like underneath there's this graveyard, there's actually to be a sewer system, and this sewer system can go on and lead them to possibly getting to the Batcave, so they can meet up with Alfred and like a freaking pimp. Alfred has his shotgun, but like, who is there? Pretty awesome. But so and how of which that they're gonna go and go about this is that Batman has yet another plastique bomb, and Batman turns to Superman. It's like, well, hey, like, are you ready for this? And Superman's like, all right, okay, let's do it. So there's this huge, massive explosion as Metallo is to go on and be like, oh, okay, well, like something happened there. So all of a sudden, as Metallo is to go on and see a shadowy figure, he is to maybe draw a conclusion that it could have gone on and been maybe either Batman or Superman, but instead he's seeing a person that he knows. Come to find out, they'll reveal who this person actually is later on in the film, but I will do it now. So, because Metallo will turn to this person like, oh, it's you. So, this is a person to go on and be known. So, I would have actually wanted it to actually have been an unexpected person. Like, I would have actually would have liked it if it actually would have been Captain Atom who would have gone on and killed Metallo here, but it isn't. Like, it actually is just the Major Force character, which I'm like, well, yeah, Major Force has kind of been a villain anyway, so it makes all the sense in the world. And they end up having Batman have kind of Major Force kind of confess to that murder in the later part of the movie, anyways. So now in the sewer system, Batman and Superman are to go on and be within this rubble. Superman is to kind of thrust himself away from this rock, and is to notice that Batman is kind of keeled over off to the side, and Superman is like, well, hey, like, now's not a time to die. Like, I won't let it. And so while Superman is trying to go on and trying to kind of maybe possibly like revive Batman here, I don't think he's going to go on and do CPR, folks. Batman wakes up and is like, hey, I thought I was rescuing you. Uh, uh, and Superman turns to Batman and it's like, well, maybe there's still time left for something like that. So the two of them make their way through the sewer system, and Superman turns to Batman and is like, well, hey, like, we're probably going to go on and make our way to your Batcave, right? And and so Batman turns to Superman and is like, well, yeah, you're going to see my side of the world. And so we also come to find out that Batman is also injured. He's holding his arm. And so Superman is to like, okay, hey, like, we'll kind of lean on one another because we realize that, like, the two of them are just kind of injured. So the two of them are going on reminiscing about Magpie, this villainous character that seems to be uh, at a scale of which that is to be Magpie and Darkseid. It seems that Magpie is to be at a scale of which that is to be probably a much easier villainous character, and they're going on and they're reminiscing about that. And Batman is to let, of course, Superman know that Magpie is dead because, of course, Magpie is to be a Gotham villain or a rogues gallery of technically Batmans in some ways, but we rarely ever actually see her always in a Batman thing. We kind of see her in any number of situations. We also see her, I think, in the Penguin show. I kind of barely watched that, but I guess she's also in that as well, from memory. So Batman ends up telling Superman that unfortunately Magpie is now dead, and Superman is like, "Well, man, like, uh, why is it that none of the good villains never die?" And Superman is like, "What exactly is to have the oxymoron of what is a real good villain?" So Batman and Superman finally make their way to the Batcave, and there seems to be some high voltage barrier that is to stop them from getting to this location. I'm like, what if Batman needed to get to this area? Like, he would not be able to get to his own Batcave. That just seems kind of strange to me. But maybe he might have like a weapon at his disposal to go on and say otherwise. But instead, it seems that Batman is relying on Superman here to bend bars and steel and what have you to to get them into the Batcave. And so, as Clark grabs this gate here, rips it open, we then go on to have Alfred making his way with the shotgun to be like, who is there? And we would, of course, have Batman, who is to state to Alfred, it's like, Alfred, it's me, Bruce. And Bruce is like, oh, Master Wayne. And he's going on and asking the two of them, of course, to identify themselves. So the next thing we see is because of how skilled Alfred is with the knife, because he is a supposedly a surgeon of the military. He is to go on more so than others to be able to figure out a way to surgically remove Superman's kryptonite bullet. And Alfred goes on and encapsulates this this kryptonite within this metal casing. So Alfred also goes on to have figured out a way to fix uh, Superman's costume, to where, of course, Superman says, like, well, Lois will definitely thank you. So now both Batman and Superman are both watching. Well, I guess in this case, Batman's cowl is off, so it's technically Bruce here. So Bruce and Soups here are both watching on the telly, going to find out that uh, that Corrigan, who is Metallo, is dead, and they are to go on and kind of blackmail. Um, they're to go on and try to say that it was Superman who had gone on to kill Metallo, and we would, of course, also have Lex, who further says, because of the meteor making its way to to the planet, it's actually affecting Superman's mind. And like, here's a bit of interesting dialogue here between the two, Batman and Superman. Is like, well, like, can like kryptonite of that magnitude, could it really affect your brain, Superman? And Superman's like, well, no, it hasn't before. And so Batman is like, maybe they're like, maybe that is to be correct, but we're not sure. But like, but also like, there is nothing that Superman can do to try and refute uh the claims of which that Lex has, because Superman turns to Batman and says, like, well, like, you were with me the whole time and you know I didn't do this. And Batman kind of turns to him and like, well, yeah, but what can I do? And Superman is like, oh yeah, that's right. like because I'm sure Batman would easily corroborate Superman's story. So like, you can't really rest on Batman to kind of save Superman's story here. But then also, Batman hadn't been with Superman every second of the whatever, because we obviously have that camera tape that shows that Superman was alone facing off against Metallo and killing him. So yeah, so that footage is much more refutable than having supposedly Batman as some kind of witness, but then there is probably poking of holes that could logically be with Batman supposedly being at Superman's side. So here's where we go on and we have Lex, who's to put the bounty on Superman's head with $1 billion. And and is to, of course, wrap up this. Lex is to wrap up this speech, and everyone is to go on and leave. Lex is to open his desk and notice that there is to go on and be this Kryptonian steroid injectional uh, needle thing that looks like a gun within his desk. And all of a sudden, we have Power Girl that then goes on to arrive here and is to go on and 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 talk to Lex. And I think there's probably a reason why we probably don't have much of Power Girl to this day being used much in comic books, because I think a lot of people are to probably go on and state, when you look at Power Girl, like, Power Girl is basically Supergirl. Because I think Power Girl is either a clone or some kind of alternate version of Supergirl. And so I think at some point they had to like drastically change how Power Girl looked within the comics, but then even that, like, no one cared after that point, so it kind of killed the character. And I think if anyone was to ever logically be interested in Power Girl, it's of course because of her original just appearance or look or whatever. And I'm sure there's probably a bit of reason for people to go on and enjoy this character. I'm sure because for how like Laura Croftian she used to look at certain points, if you know what I mean. For the early images of Laura Croft, Tomb Raider, um, and how eventually they changed that character or adjusted that character within time. So Power Girl comes into the Oval Office to speak with Lex, and Power Girl is to state how important it is. And so Lex is like, all right, okay, I'll hear you out. Like, come on, like it seems you really are having a problem with what's kind of going on between both me and Superman. So we need to rash this out. And like, I need to definitely have you on my side, kind of thing. Here is what I'm kind of surmising. So, uh, oh, here's the bit of dialogue between both Batman and Superman, where uh where they're talking about the growing irrationale that there's a possibility that the kryptonite from the meteor could be affecting Superman's mind, and that there was a witness, technically of Batman, um, to Metallo's possible death, and so on and so. But yeah, uh, but if anything, just kind of Superman kind of just pushes it away. It's like, well, I'll come up with a conclusion of how I can kind of figure my way out of this later. But like right now, like we have to stop that meteor. That's like our focus. So Power Girl is with Lex, and so Power Girl states to Lex, it's like, you know what? I don't think that Superman could have killed Metallo. It's not in him. And Lex turns to Power Girl. It's like, you know what? 3 years ago, would you have assessed that I would have been president? No, you wouldn't have thought anything of it. So if I could have in time changed that much, could have Superman changed that much too? And Power Girl is like, dang it, Lex, you're right. So Superman and Batman make their way to Star Labs, which, of course, you don't know what Star Labs is because you've maybe never seen the show The Flash. This, of course, is a laboratory that is to be normally uh, to go on and be like the Flash's kind of just go-to place. So it's kind of interesting how they're going from like Metropolises and Gotham's and Star Labs, which of course is I think in like Coast City or Star City. People can go on and correct me who are to of course be DC uh, experts of some kind. But of course, at least I knew what Star Labs was. Um, I think it is. I think it's maybe Coast City is Green Lantern's home. It's been a while since I knew these cities. I think uh, Star or Star. I think Star City might be Green Arrow's home. I don't know. It's been such a long time since doing all this comic book knowledge. So Batman is now waiting for Superman, and Batman, when Superman arrives, is like, "What took you so long?" And Superman's like, "Well, you would never understand." And Batman's like, "Well, like Lois," and Superman's like, "Well, yeah." It's like, "Yeah, I wouldn't understand." So they break their way into Star Labs, and they go on to try and make their way to Metallo's dead body. So they find out while examining Metallo's body that the effect of what had killed Metallo was to not be anything that was to be tied to Superman's heat vision. It was to actually be radiation in base. So it had to have either been Captain Atom or Major Force. So there's only those two of those people that we know in the DC world of things that could have gone on and killed Metallo here, and I would actually have liked it to have still been Captain Atom. I just would have. It would have been more interesting to just see how this person had gotten very corrupt. Uh, but again, like you can't have a hero like kill a person and like everyone would go on like oh like and every time you would probably go on in later movies see that character be like oh that's the person that killed so and so, why is he shown as a hero now and why is he still not in prison or what. Yeah, you would go on and still you would probably hate that character even though he's to be a hero. So we go on to find that Star Labs has some security and is to rush their way into both Superman and Batman. And Batman is to be tempted to throw his batarangs, and Superman's like, no, there's another way. And so he grabs Batman and thrusts his way through the building, and the two of them try and escape. And it is kind of funny how like Superman is just kind of grabbing onto Batman's hands here and carrying him because when they were to go on and get into Star Labs, like Superman turns to Batman, it's like, you know what, you didn't have to like grapple your way down. Like I could have just grabbed you and carried you. And Batman looks at Superman, it's like, you know what, I actually hate that. So looking at this now, like I'm sure Batman is just hating this. So as the two of them are flying off and they realize it's like, well, I guess we really are criminals now. And Batman's like, well, it's done wonders for me. So Silver Banshee goes on to uh, scream her way into a sonic blast that separates both Batman and Superman. And I'm like, I didn't know Silver Banshee could fly. Like, I was to go on and immediately assume that all Silver Banshee can go on and do is just scream. But if you technically think about it, like the Banshee character from X-Men First Class could technically fly because the Banshee would just consistently just scream to the point to where like it could glide its way through everything, and like that goes on and makes quite a bit of sense, I guess, for how maybe Silver Banshee can actually fly here. But it just seemed very weird that she just kind of came out of nowhere. So as Batman and Superman separate here, Banshee or Silver Banshee is grabbing Superman and consistently screaming in his face and choking him and thrusting him into the ground. And we all of a sudden have Batman being met by a bunch of cold, Ash like villainous characters. We come to find Icicle, Captain Cold, Mr. Freeze, and I thought that this might have been Ice from Fire and Ice, but Ice is actually a hero. So I'm like, well, this has to be Killer Frost then, because this is the only person that looks visually wise like it would probably be Killer Frost. And then I'm thinking like, well, like Killer Frost has been in like the DC world for a very long time, so I was just kind of figuring out because like the visuals of Killer Frost just looks very unusual to me in this movie. Um, but so and they don't immediately say it's like, oh, well, this is Killer Frost. So I just had to decipher. I think also this is an early version of Icicle, so it might not actually be the Icicle that everybody is familiar with. But whatever. So Killer Frost ends up turning to Batman. It's like, well, hey, like, where is your friend? Like, you know, the guy that's worth $1 billion? And Batman ends up telling them nothing, and then they're like, oh, you want to play it that way? All right, we'll play. So Batman is now shucking and jiving his way to try to get away from these cold villains, these cold-hearted villains. How dare they just go up against the Batman here? And so Batman, because of how these characters are blasting, he's trying to find some kind of way to shield himself. So he thrusts this bit of explosive into this water, and then the water bursts up to where these cold blasts go goes on to freeze the water. So Batman has some kind of shielding of some kind. So Batman ends up getting his arm frozen, and so now he's like trying to go on and figure out a way to just realize that he's really outmatched here. So Batman, through his ear, is to go on and try to call out for Superman. It's like, hey, Superman, when you can, bring the heat. And of course, Superman is quite busy with Banshee because he's going to go on and take Banshee and fly her up into almost space or orbit, so that way she could, of course, black out here. And we start to see that that's an easy way for Superman to take out a lot of his villains, even within this movie. So it makes a lot of sense, though, when you really think about it. We have Iron Man who goes up against Ironmonger in the very first Iron Man movie, and Tony Stark uses the ice thing to just kind of try to take down Ironmonger. I'm doing a whole lot of comparisons here to comic book stuff, even though it's not DC things. So as Batman is to finally be frozen up almost into a statue-like form, Batman cries out for Superman, now! Do it now! Now! Do it! I'm here! Do it now! And of course, we see Mr. Freeze here. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age! We have to do it. So, Superman is to go on and within orbit or within the sky, blast a bit of heat to go on and free Batman, but then also take down the icy villains here, the cold-hearted villains. So Superman makes his way back to Batman and is like, "Hey, are you doing all right?" And Batman is like, well, a little bit better than they are. So Superman notices that Banshee is like, well, hey, like she can go on and be an incredible threat once she wakes up here. And Batman's like, well, no, like I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna give her hypersonics, which is to have when she does wake up, if she does use her scream, like it'll kind of be blasted back at her. So that'll be a way to just kind of take her out here. So as Superman kind of puts down Silver Banshee here, they start to realize that they start to hear these loud footsteps, and Batman and Superman realizes, like, man, like everybody wants this bounty, even when it doesn't make sense that they are to go on and actually want this bounty. Like everybody just wants these $1 million. To the point of all of a sudden we're seeing off in the distance in these shadowy figures both Mongul and both Solomon Grundy, and so both of these two characters well showcased in, I think, Justice League, the series. So, if I haven't probably said that somewhere already. So, Batman is to take on Solomon Grundy here, as Superman is to take on Mongul. Also, there in live action thing, there's to actually be Mongal, which is to be in the Suicide Squad movie. So, just for those who are to want to get a live action taste of what Mongul is to technically be, but only probably get it very briefly in a movie. And it's not even Mongol, it's Mongal. So, Mongul, we find, has a weird laser thing on his chest. Don't remember that actually ever being a thing, but it seems that it's a thing for this movie because it has to make sense for how Mongul can be more of a substantial match for Superman here. So, oddly enough, we would of course go on and have Solomon Grundy, who doesn't really actually talk that much, have quite a bit of dialogue here. And on the opposite end, a very much talker who is Mongul is to have no bit of dialogue whatsoever, to where Superman just kind of goes on his own to be like, well, hey, like, Mongul, like, what would you go on and need this bounty for? And we go into a bit of that. But so, let's kind of pump the brakes a little bit. So, Solomon Grundy now has Batman, and he's like, well, all you are is a rat with wings, and the better way to get rid of you is to drown you. So Solomon Grundy forces Batman into this fountain where he's trying to drown him, and while that's going on, Superman is to be thrown through this building. And so as Solomon Grundy is now drowning Batman and then gets him out of the fountain, he's like, well, like, this seemed rather easy. Like, I would have to go on and ask the Joker why it is uh, taken him, like, so many years to, and so much trouble to get rid of you. And so Solomon tries to go on and, like, since, like, he is to actually have the real benefit of killing Batman, he's like, well, I should probably go on and see what his identity is, right? And as he goes on and does that, he ends up getting smoke blasted in his face. And then all of a sudden, uh, Solomon Grundy is no longer under the guise of his telepath. Instead, he is to actually just be normal Solomon Grundy again. But let's go back with Mongul and Superman. So here's where Superman ends up asking Mongul what he needs money for, that all he normally cares about is just ruling the universe. And back with Batman and Solomon, Grundy ends up seeing as like, well, I don't feel too good. And Batman's like, you're gonna feel a lot worse, because he throws batarangs right into his bate. We realize that Solomon Grundy has like a good healing factor anyway, so like it won't really hurt Solomon Grundy all that well if he gets stabbed with batarangs here. Like, Batman's just doing this just to create some distance between him and Solomon because of how much of a threat that actually Grundy really is to Batman, because of how strong he is, and also just like when anything Batman can do, like Grundy has a healing factor anyways. So in a lot of ways, Solomon Grundy, for those of you that don't know much about this character, he's kind of like the Hulk, or for Marvel people, or also he's been in Gotham. Like, they end up showcasing that character pretty well, I think. So as Batman is to go on and kind of create some distance between him and Grundy, he all of a sudden is to notice off in the distance Lady Shiva, which Batman has had some history with. And so Batman knows how deadly Lady Shiva really is, and how much study she has gone into, because we would of course have an animated movie that goes on and states that. So uh back with Batman and Mongul, Superman is going on and stating to Mongul, it's like, oh, you want to be Lex's boy? I am so sick of Lex Luthor. Pow, pow, pow. So Batman is still facing off against Lady Shiva, as when Batman and Superman reunite here, Superman turns to Batman and it's like, you know what, like, Mongul wasn't his normal talkative self. And Batman is like, well, and Solomon Grundy didn't sound like himself either, for how, like, Grundy rarely ever talks, or when he does talk, it's very caveman speak. So they start to surmise that there must be a telepath in their ranks. And Superman also is to have heard a gorilla's heartbeat at some point here, to possibly realize that it could end up being Gorilla Grodd off from the shadows. But by that time, all of a sudden, Superman is to be grabbed by a shadowy hand, which comes to him, which is actually to be Nightshade. Nightshade, for those of you that probably have no idea who this character is, Nightshade is to actually, for me, mostly be known of her by the DC comic book team, which is to be called Shadow Pact, which she ends up becoming a hero. So I was a little bit baffled, confused by Nightshade being here, because I was like, okay, like, for any time I was to know her, I was to have known her from like the Shadow Pact team, and she's a hero. But like, we can probably go on and surmise that, like, with Gorilla Grodd, like, telepathing these people, that maybe he got any random number of people. But also, Nightshade was probably during this time period to actually be a villain. So we just have to just go. We just have to surmise that um, that like that during this time period that this girl was to be this person. Anyways, so we have Nightshade, who is again speaking so much so like Solomon Grundy here, and realizing that maybe even the lesser villains do have their usefulness. And as Nightshade is to go on and speak quite similar to Solomon Grundy, Batman is to know that speech pattern, even though more than likely he is to probably not have this be one of his main bad guys, because maybe he is to have fought Gorilla Grodd in the past. So as Batman tries to distance himself from Nightshade, realizing how much of a threat that she is, Superman is to state that that Grodd is to be at the top of the building because he could probably, with his super hearing, exactly narrow down exactly where that voice is to be said from. So we have Batman that is to use his grapple gun to thrust its way into the air to then wrap around Gorilla Grodd's neck. And so Batman is to then run to Superman because of how obviously Batman won't be strong enough to drag Gorilla Grodd down because of how gorillas have such um, a massive bit of strength to them beyond just Gorilla Grodd, of course, being who he is and his strength and whatever. So Batman runs to Superman to say, okay, take this grapple and pull. And so Superman does, forcing then Gorilla Grodd to then be knocked out here. And then Nightshade is like, well, hey, what was I doing here? So as soon as Nightshade, it seems, is to kind of just be kind of like, uh, we have both Batman and Superman that are kind of just going on and being back to back with one another, realizing that, okay, like it seems that there's going to be more a coming, and so there will be. So within the bit of trees here, we start to see people of all size and shapes and color coded costumes here. So we go on to see within the trees here, like the first thing we obviously see, who's the kind of the biggest showcase here, is Brimstone, I believe. And Brimstone is to go on and be in the Justice League Unlimited pilot, and uh and he faces off against eventually just kind of Green Arrow, which seems like a very odd pairing, but this story eventually kind of plays out with like Green Arrow, Captain Atom, and Supergirl, and it ends up just kind of ending up with just Green Arrow. I think there might have been more than just that, but in my mind, I'm just thinking it's those core three for some reason. I want to say that John Stewart had something to do with that story also, but it's been a long time since watching that. I know that he gets injured and he's in like, I think he's in the hospital or something. Um, it's been a while. So, but let's get back to listing off these characters. So we have Kestrel, who I believe is a Hawk and Dove villain. Eventually, it showcases Giganta, who is a Wonder Woman villain. But she's kind of been kind of like all over the place technically, but because everybody loves a giant woman in a story, so like Giganta kind of plays the field, but I think she's mostly a Wonder Woman villain. We have Copperhead, who I believe is mostly a Batman villain. Black Manta, who's a Aquaman villain. Catman, who gets scarcely used, but it's kind of nice to see him in the fold here. And Deadshot and Calypso is in the way background. You barely see him. But then also we start to see more people that start to form in. We see uh, Shrike, which I'd actually go on and look this character up because I had no clue who he was. Then we get Despero, which is a Green Lantern villain, which I know. Black Spider, who every so once in a while gets used uh, because they need some kind of Spider-Man equivalent here. But he's not actually Spider-Man, but he's kind of close. I think he was used in a Suicide Squad animated movie, kind of fairly briefly. We have Cheetah, who's Wonder Woman villain, and then we also end up getting King Shark. I wanted to say Killer Shark, but like I think this is King Shark here. For some reason, I wanted to say Killer Shark because I get him and Killer Croc confused. So Superman turns to Batman and states like, "Well, hey, you can leave," and Batman is "No, like I'm not leaving." Uh, and or no, wait, no, wait. What happens here um, is Batman says to Superman, "It's like, well, hey, uh, like I don't suppose it's useless to tell you to leave." And Superman's like, "No, I wouldn't miss this for the world." And Batman's like, "Well, it's your funeral," and Superman's like, "Well, I already had one." And so we start to have Superman and Batman facing off against all these villains. And I'm not going to catch every single punch and throw that ends up happening here because there was a lot of stuff where I tried as best as possible to like freeze frame and get every little bit of nook and cranny of what goes on here, but it's very difficult. Uh, Superman takes on Black Manta and then transitions to Kessler, then ends up getting grabbed by Copperhead. And while Batman is taking Shrike out, I think it's Shrike. You guys can correct me in the comments below. I did look into this. I did look into the name, but it's very unfamiliar to me. Let me know in the comments below who is this villain character because I have no idea who he is. So it would be cool to I probably should have gone on and done some due diligence here and looked this character up, but like I wanted to be honest about my knowledge of all these characters. And then Batman ends up getting tackled, I think, or clotheslined by King Shark here. I almost said Killer Shark again in my brain. And then Batman goes up against Bane. I'm like, yeah, Bane. Great to see him here. But Batman is to go on and take out Bane quite so easily by taking a batarang and ripping out his tubes that are to be from behind him, which of course is to give him his toxin of which that he depends on. So Superman goes on and takes out Deathshot here, which I'm sorry, like Deadshot should not have gone on up against Superman. What does he have to do to be able to take him down? That was stupid. But then Superman turns to see a guy who I believe is named Size, Philo Size, Philo Ziess. I had to look him up because I'm like, I have no clue who this person is. And then uh, Superman goes or Superman goes on. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I may have messed up here. So Superman goes on and Heat Vision Size, and then I think this is where Deadshot comes into the fray here, and Superman lifts Deadshot up and then chucks him in front of Parasite, who is a Superman villain. We at some point will go on and see him, I think, in either Justice League or in Justice League Unlimited. And Parasite has the power of being able to become uh, any matching power set that he is to be kind of nearby or close by. It's kind of like a Mazo. For those of you who are kind of interested in seeing like other kind of characters that have the same kind of power set. Oddly enough, Parasite is to be going on and being near all of these villains, and also Superman. You would think that Parasite would be like the most powerful guy here, But he ends up getting the boots, I think, so quickly in this story. It's very weird. But so, Giganta, of course, is massive, gigantic woman. God dang. God dang, Giganta. Yeah, just give me some of that. Giganta is wanting to put her foot down on Superman. And Superman, of course, is to fly into or fly into Giganta's chin to give her a good old knockout. And so he does. As Giganta falls and the dust settles here, where we see Captain Boomerang and Parasite, we now need to go on and seemingly have this battle finish up here by Captain Atom coming down and laying the hammer, so to speak, or in this case, like his radioactive atom-like power that is to start to uh, bust and thrust away our superheroes here. To where we see Girder and I think Z's. No, maybe. I knew I was gonna. I knew it was gonna. No, this is Riot. This is Riot. In this thing here. I knew I wasn't gonna remember that name. We see Girder. We see Riot on the far right here, and then we see Cheetah on the far left. So we of course go on to have like Superman very appreciative that Adam had made his way here. We even have Superman that goes on and thanks Captain Atom, and so Captain Atom ends up telling, of course, Superman here. It's like, well, I have a warrant for your arrest, Superman, and Superman is like, well, so much for the cavalry. So we now have both Lex and both Amanda Waller, and they're flying on this helicopter, and it seems that Lex is going on and getting a little verklempt, a little bit of like it looks like he's kind of a little bit unwell. To where Amanda is to go on and turn to Lex and to go on and ask him, it's like, well, like, are you feeling okay? And Lex is like, fine, but thank you for asking. It's like very weird. So as Lex makes his way to his base of operations, uh, we're back with Captain Atom and his team. I say Team Black Lightning, Major Force, Power Girl, and I think Katana is somewhere in there. Somewhere on the floor. You don't really see her that well because you really don't ever see her really in this movie all that well either. So Captain Atom is to tell Superman how it's his duty to go on and bring Superman in. It isn't his decision to make. It's the court's. And Batman is stating how like this isn't the court's decision. It's the Luthor's vendetta. And so Superman turns to Power Girl. It's like, what do you think about this, Power Girl? And Supergirl's like, and Captain Atom just kind of thrusts in the way of the two of them. And Captain Atom is like, well, it's like it doesn't matter what any of us think. Luthor is the president here, and what he says goes. So, are you coming with us or are you not? Are you going to make this easy or are you going to make this difficult? So, we immediately just want Major Force to just get into the fight here. He's grasping his fist here, just wanting to go on and kill, because that's all he cares about. So that then forces the hand of the two of both Superman and Batman and Captain Atom's group facing off here. So as the group gets close, Batman throws smoke, and then Batman is to put this plastic rubberish thing, a rubber residue, upon Major Force's face, because he's out of everybody to be probably the most threat out of any of them. So Batman faces off against Katana. Superman, I think, tries to fly off here, and uh, and faces off against I think it's kind of a barrage of characters here, because as Superman tries to fly away here, he's to get blasts from Starfire. Oh, Starfire's in this group also. I completely forgot about that. Completely missed my my radar. So if anybody's yelling at me, it's like, "What about Starfire?" I completely didn't even know. Um, but so I guess she's also in this group because, like, technically, like, she's mostly known for being in the Teen Titans, but she's also, I guess, in this movie as well. Completely forgot about Starfire. So Black Lightning and Starfire are facing off against Superman here. I didn't know Black Lightning could fly. Learn something new every day. That kind of tells you how rare it is that I see Black Lightning. The only time that I've ever seen Black Lightning in the animated stuff is when he's with like Static Shock and they're working together. Anyways, so Batman still taking a fight against Katana, and so what happens here is Superman drives Starfire and Black Lightning to the ground, and so now Captain Atom is to go on and blast Superman, and Power Girl tells Superman to duck, and so Captain Atom looks at Power Girl like, "Hey," he's like, "I thought you were on our side," and Supergirl's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." So as Captain Atom and Major Force try to get close to Superman here, and are blasting them and hurting them and whichever, we have Major Force that starts within the fountain of which that Superman is to be at as he lands while attacking. Major Force starts to just continue to punch him, and Captain Atom is to grab Major Force, like, "Hey, that's enough." And we then go further to then have Superman uh, kind of get away from Black Adam and Major Force to then have this kind of weird circling of attack, this tornado-like attack that kind of gusts a lot of the heroes all away. Superman goes on and finds within this attack of tornadoing like maneuvers to grab Supergirl and get them out of there. So Captain Adam's team is kind of just kind of, like they're all just discombobulated by that attack there. And so now Lex is going on within his underground hideout uh, to see the course of the meteor. So we have Lex that ends up getting a call from Captain Atom, getting an update on the fact that uh, that there had been a problem. And Lex is like, "Well, what is the problem?" And Captain Atom is like, "Well, Power Girl." And Lex is like, "Well, is she dead?" And Captain Atom's like, "Well, no." And so by the end of this, Lex is to say, like, "You know what? I have 3 words for you. Finish your job." And then he hangs up on him. So, because Lex has other problems here. So, Captain Atom turns to his team and he's like, "Well, this is going to be a little bit more difficult without Super or Power Girl uh, on our team." And Major Force is saying like, "Well, yeah, we should have killed him when we had the chance." And Captain Atom's like, "Well, we don't kill people here." And Major Force is like, "We don't kill people here?" So at the Daily Planet, which is an obvious place for Superman to go to. You'd have thought that would have been the go-to place for everyone to figure out where Superman is going to be. Superman is talking to Power Girl, and Sata's like, well, hey, like, why did you help me there? And Power Girl's like, well, it just seemed right. And Superman turns to Power Girl. It's like, you really don't think that I killed Metallo, do you? And Power Girl's like, well, technically Luthor said you did. And it's like, well, uh, Batman ends up asking Power Girl. It's like, well, now that you've been close to Lex personally, like, how do you feel about him? Like, how does he make you feel? Like, and Power Girl's like, well, he's the president. It's like, come on, like, and Power Girl's, well, he makes my skin crawl, and Power Girls is like, yeah, sometimes you just really have to trust your instincts and realize that, like, yeah, there's something about Luthor that just isn't right. So we get Captain America's team that re-arrives nearby Power Girls, Superman, and Batman. And the immediate consensus that Major Force has with looking at Power Girl is that she's a traitor, that she's a turncoat. And Captain Atom looks at Power Girl. It's like, well, is this true? Like, are we wrong here? And before Captain Atom is to really get a clear consensus here, because Captain Atom wants to try to do the right thing here, but he realizes also he has orders. So, but he wants to give Power Girl the benefit of the doubt here and try to figure out a way to uh to not have her be like uh a person just kind of lost in the fight here, and we don't know exactly what side she's on. So, and Power Girl is telling Captain Atom, it's like, well, it's complicated. It's like, no, it's not complicated. It's a yes or no answer. So, Major Force tries to go on and attack the three heroes, and of course, Power Girl, Superman, and Batman, because I know there's a lot of kind of heroes on the field here. So, Batman, Power Girl and Captain Atom face off against one another forcibly. Black Lightning attacks Power Girl, and Starfire is also attacking Power Girl here. So, like, we're getting an all on all sides here. Superman tries to go on and tries to take out Black Lightning here, and then faces off against Captain Atom. I think this is where also Batman is facing off against Major Force here, and Batman is kind of hiding away from these blasts, and Batman is talking to Major Force about like, well, hey, like tell me when you like tell me like did Metallo say anything before he died? Was he surprised to see you? And Major Force is like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, what did Luthor promise you? Money. And Major Force is like, what do I need to do with money? Like, I'm living energy. And so Major Force is like, well, some of us believe in putting our country first. It's like bullshit. Like, Batman is like, you just wanted to be able to kill people and disguise that as patriotism. And so and so we go on here, and as Batman is talking, Major Force is just getting more and more upset, uh, using blasts against Batman, and so we have Power Girl that goes on to thrust into Major Force, so much so that it breaks his radioactive skin, and it causes a chain reaction that is to have him eventually go on and explode. The one thing that people don't know, possibly about both Captain Atom and Major Force, is if you impact their bodies hard enough that their body can't contain their innards, and they of course will have to go on and explode. We get to see that in uh, of course, the pilot episode of Captain Adam's episode in Justice League Unlimited, where he's facing off against Brimstone, and then he realizes that he has gotten to such an attacked state where he is going to start leaking and exploding. So he is to go on and thrust up into the sky, and then he explodes, and we still find out that he's okay, that his like body needs to go on and get fused with radioactive particles or whatever to for him to kind of revive himself. Uh, but we see that in the story. So technically, I'm sure Major Force is not exactly dead in this story, but we'll see like his just skin just kind of left, or the shell of who he is just kind of left on the ground here. So now that Major Force has uncontrollably started to leak out here of his body, now the more important thing of like, okay, we need to go on and we need to contain this guy. So the whole team is kind of now scrambling together, even though they're at odds with one another. They're realizing they need a plan. So Superman turns to Black Lightning and says, like, hey, like, you might have some power to contain this whole Major Force, right? And so Black Lightning goes and tries to contain it as best as he can. So Batman is like, well, like, Black Lightning can't do this forever. Like, what are we gonna do? And Captain Atom's like, well, I can absorb it. Because we realize that like Captain Atom is like the absorbing man, kind of. So, and both Superman and Batman are like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And Captain Atom's like, "Well, it's the least I could do. Like, I'd heard and I knew what was going on, and like I just ignored it. So that's my fault, and I need to kind of, if anything, if I'm gonna have to like die by the sword here, I might as well do it now." So Captain Atom makes his way to Major Force and starts absorbing uh, Major Force as Captain Atom turns to Lightning or Black Lightning and says, "Let's do this." So we then see the wreckage or the the explosion that happens between the two of them just going about this, and the two of them are on the ground, both hurt, as Black Lightning and Starfire drag Captain Atom out of the wreckage. So now the next plan is like, okay, we need to go and we need to get rid of this meteor. Like that should have been like our big thing here. So like, let's go. We got to get out of here. So we finally see that that Lex is shooting all these missiles that he's gone on and talked so highly about, and so they have these rockets with all these missiles to make their way to this meteor. They have to go on and they have to engage this black hole to then have the rockets get there faster. So this wormhole engages bizarrely. I don't know how they have this wormhole technology. It's very weird. So the missiles all make their way to the meteor. We see this big, huge explosion. Everybody's clapping and they're thinking, "Yeah, we beat it! Yeah, yeah!" And Lex is to to Amanda and hug her, like, "Don't worry, like I won't say I told you so." And Amanda turns to Lex, like, well, good thing, because you shouldn't. So Lex is to then realize mortified that the missiles did not do what they were supposed to. It seems the missiles had exploded well before it had actually been able to hit its target. So Lex looks at the general, is like, General, like, what happened? And the general turns to Lex, like, well, you, I mean, me, we miscalculated here. So, stating exactly that the missiles had kind of exploded before even hitting the kryptonite meteor. So now Lex is just so like upset here. He's throwing things at his desk. He's like, "What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do?" kind of thing. So Lex is to go on and is to see his drawer that has his kryptonite serum, and so he wants to be tempted to go on and take it yet again. So Batman and Superman and Power Girl realize that they need the uh, the information about this meteor, and only Lex has it. So they have to make it to his bunker, to his hideout, to his place by these cliffs. So as they're going on and they're assessing how they're going to get in here, and assuming that there's a possibility that Lex probably has some kind of radar or some kind of thing that tells when somebody's getting there. Uh, and so they have to go by foot to hope that they can kind of make it in time. And all of a sudden, they are to be met by both Captain Marvel, who is Shazam, and Hawkman. So Hawkman ends up putting a net over Batman, and Shazam is to battle Superman here. The fun thing that Captain Marvel says, or Shazam says here, it's like, well, Superman, it seems that you have a weakness against magic, and that's what I'm all about. uh, I thought that was a pretty good line there. I'm not saying it verbatim, but like that was a pretty good shot at Superman because yeah, he does have a weakness to magic. So Shazam faces off against Superman here and says, uh, Shazam states that like it doesn't take the wisdom of Solomon to know that you should stay down, Superman. And Superman tells Shazam, it's like, well, like, is Solomon's wisdom to go on and to have told you to team up with Lex here? Because I don't think he would have wanted you to go on and team up with Lex. So Hawkman is telling, I want to say like Hawkeye, just because, or Hawk Guy, just because of just Avengers is going to drill that into me. But Hawkman is going on and talking to Batman to say like, "Hey, don't make this any more difficult than it has to be, Batman." So, and Batman whips out the batarangs, and so Hawkman's like, "All right, you want to play it that way? Like, let's go." Fine, like let's do this. So, because no wait, no wait. Batman goes on and doesn't get out his batarangs. He gets out this weird device that starts to clip the netting, and that's where Hawkman is like, all right, like let's go, like let's do this. So as Hawkman gets his mace and trudges to Batman, Batman gets out of the net and gets out of the way to the point of uh, again the four of these characters are all duking it out right now. Power Girl, I think, was taken out fairly quickly. Like I want to say, like or maybe Power Girl had went to go on to Toyman's headquarters to kind of watch over him already. Maybe that might have been a thing that happened so early in this part of this movie. But anyways, so Batman calls out the code name Castling, which is to basically, I think, just say that they need to change who they're facing off against because it's far too even between the two of them. So Superman says to Batman that it's a good call, and so as Superman chucks Shazam, we have Superman that is to go on and make his way to Hawkman, and Hawkman with Superman is to be kind of grappling together. And so Superman is deciding again to go up to orbit to have it be to where Hawkman is to pass out here. You would honestly think with how Hawkman is to actually be from Themyscira or whatever, that he's to be kind of this outer space guy. Like you would technically think that like he probably would not be able to not have to not need to breathe in space. I don't know. But I guess that's just me. Like, well, technically he is just like a human, like anyone else, but he just has his armor in some cases, so he's probably not exactly an alien, somewhat. But anyways, but he's kind of immortal. Like when he dies, like he goes on to just kind of be someone else. Uh, anyways, so Batman had a device that is to be rocketing into Shazam, which explodes. And as Batman makes his way to see Shazam here, he realizes that it's not Shazam, it's actually just Billy Batson. And so Batson kind of just thrusts it into the ground here. Batman wants to make sure that Billy's okay, just because of it being a kid here, and like, well, hey, like, are you okay? Say something. And immediately Billy ends up saying Shazam and then turns back into Captain Marvel again. So as Superman is to tell uh Hawkman that he's like, you know what, I hate that we had to do it this way, uh and that he's gonna go on and tell him it's like, well, hey, like before you black out, and then Hawkman's like, before I black out. So Hawkman all of a sudden changes his arm to have this bit of armor, and I'm not quite sure if this weapon is to be laced in any kind of kryptonite. It just looks like just a very interesting just armor piece here. Like it could be red kryptonite, or it could be green. I'm not quite sure because it has all this like red and green stuff on it. So I'm just drawing to some conclusions that it could just be any kind of number of kryptonite here laced. I would like to hope, just for it to make more sense that Hawkman just takes out Superman the way he does. So Superman ends up going flying into this mountain, and here is where Shazam appears over Batman's body, and then we cut right back to Lex trying to go on and give this big, huge, lavish message to the city of Metropolis, like, well, hey, just go about your regular day, just go on and just have fun and and work and travel and play and and while he's saying all that to try to keep everybody calm, there is a riot going out in the streets. Like people are breaking into grocery stores, stealing cans of food. Like riot is going on and happening. Somebody's chucking a brick to this TV that is going on and having this Lex speech, and the screen breaks. So Amanda Waller needs to make her way to Lex to speak to him, and people are not wanting him or not wanting Amanda to make her way to Lex, but she shoves her way in there anyways. So this is where Amanda finds out that Lex has been injecting himself with a steroid slash kryptonite uh, bit of uh, syringe style drug here. So Lex is to go on and state that since he had gone on and and put this drug together, he is to be stronger and have much more of a clarity that he's probably ever had, which is to also state that this is probably the reason why Lex is to be driven to such insanity as he is to go on and further be in this film, because he's kind of addicted to this substance, to so much so be so focused on it that nothing else probably really matters, that he just needs to be just stronger and stronger and stronger. So, but he's only been taking it since the last week of the campaign, supposedly. So, here is where Amanda is to state that Lex isn't to go on and be the only one to have a solution for possibly this problem, that maybe a boy in Japan could also have a solution. And Lex is like, well, I know all about him, but we won't need him. And so Lex instead is like, well, you know what? Like, we're going to go on and we're going to be fine. Like, how about let the meteor fall? Like, it's a gift from the heavens. Like, maybe it'll go on and take out the kind of the weaker, and maybe we'll have the more rational and orderly people just left alive. And if I'm going to build this world, like, of course I'm going to intend for you to play a role in all that. And that's when Lex kisses Amanda Waller here. And so here's where people come in to tell Lex that both Hawkman and Shazam are here. And Lex turns around and it's like, we'll talk later. So Lex gets back on his suit and tie and makes his way back to Shazam and Hawkman. And so Lex is like, well, Hawkman, Shazam, this is a bit of a surprise. Like, shouldn't you go on and have some fugitives to hand over to me? And Shazam goes on and states, like, well, they're right here. Because Shazam is to show himself in the shadows, and it's actually Superman as Shazam, and Batman is to be Hawkman in disguise. So Superman rips his Shazam costume and reveals his S, and Superman desperately wants Lex to give him the data for the meteor. And Lex is like, well, of course, but then all of a sudden Superman starts to fall over, and Lex is like, oh, yeah, you look surprisingly a little bit sick, Superman. I wonder why that is. Because Lex has dosed himself so much so with kryptonite that he's, like, glowing of it almost. But, like, not really that far. So Batman is to go on, like, well, hey, like, since Superman is not going to go on and get any answers, like, so Batman in Hawkman costume is grabbing Lex, is like, all right, like, give us the data, Lex. And Lex is going like, oh, okay, I'll tell you where the data is. And then so Lex is to tell his computer, like, computer, delete all the files. And then Batman is like, oh, he scrambles, he takes the mace, he's jabbing onto the computer, hoping that that they can destroy just enough of the computer to where they delay those orders, and it doesn't happen. So Lex turns to Batman and Superman here and tells them, like, well, you're not going to be the two to save the world now, and I'll tell you something. Everyone who lives will see a new world. Will have learned never to trust your kind. To really say that, like, Lex is saying here that these people should not go on and rely on superheroes, but it seems like they consistently do. So, but Amanda had a backup plan. She had gone on to get the information and is going on and giving this to both Batman and Superman. Is like, okay, now go save us. And that just corny line. So Superman and Batman just go off here, and so Amanda tells the general, it's like, okay, arrest Lex. So Lex goes on and goes into his office and runs in there, takes off his shirt, and continues to inject himself with the kryptonite serum of sorts, and then finally gets into his war armor or his battle armor, his battle suit, whatever you want to call it. He becomes Super Lex without the logo in his green and purple armor. And so, as the general is to be knocking on the door, Mr. President, are you all right? So uh, Lex come bursting through this door, like, well, I'm perfectly fine, as you can see. So there's a lot of gunfire that ends up going off against Lex here, but there's nothing anyone can do. He's in his battle suit. Come on. So Batman, now in his Batwing, making his way to Japan with Superman here, uh, makes their way to Toyman's fortress of some kind. So the two of them make their landing not right next to this fortress, and like, well, uh, Superman turns to Batman, and it's like, where does a kid like this get so much of this, or where does a kid get this kind of money? And Batman turns to Superman, and it's like, well, I had this kind of money, but I had no real true interest in toys. So Superman and Batman turn to Power Girl, and as the two of them make their way into this fortress, uh, we of course go on and have Batman and Superman talking to Power Girl, like, well, hey, like, are you gonna go on and come with us to see Toyman? And Power Girl's like, no, like, if anything, like, I'm just gonna stay right here, because that kid is a little bit like a little bit perverted. Perverted. I say perverted, but it's not the way they go about dialogue here. And both Batman and Superman is like, well, he's young, and Power Girl's like, well, he's 13, so like so. Uh, so Power Girl just lets Superman and Batman make their way to Toyman, and we come to find out why. Of course, Power Girl is to want to have her distance away from Toyman because Toyman ends up introducing himself to Superman and Batman. Like, hey, que pasa? Like, Superman bats, uh, and so Batman calls Toyman a hero, but he's like, "No, I'm not going by that name. Like it's Toyman to you." So he's like, I got a copyright to protect." And so, come to find out, Toyman had X-ray goggles to use against Power Girl. That's why she was to distance herself from him because of how creepy that honestly was. But it seemed that Power Girl had broken the X-ray goggles, so it's like, all right, cool. Like so, and then now Toy Boy or Toy Man is just kind of upset that he has to go on and he has to kind of make new ones. Uh, and then also like Toyman almost makes the joke about how like Power Girl has a big huge set of and then like hey. I thought that was kind of funny in the later half here. So so Toyman goes on and explains the whole weird way that uh, this mech thing that both Superman and Batman are both going to go into was to be a thing that he had made a sketch of when he was like 7 years old because he had to kind of scramble and figure out um, how to make this thing. So because he didn't have enough time to figure it all out. So And when suppose he was 7 years old, he was really into hero worship. So half of the body is Superman and half of the body is Batman upon this mech suit. And so the both Superman and Batman are looking at this thing and they're like, "Whoa!" So Lex blasts his way through this fortress to get to Power Girl, taking her out here, and then further makes his way Lex to face off against Batman and Superman. So both Batman and Superman are hoping that there's a way that Toyman can figure out how to speed this process up. And Toyman is like, well, if you can find anybody else with a 210 IQ, then like by all means try and find them because you won't. So, because good luck with that. So Lex comes into frame here with Power Girl on his shoulders and looks at Superman. It's like, oh, hello, sunshine. And so both Superman and both Lex start to battle here. So much so that eventually, when Lex uh, gets to where Toyman is, he rips off uh, this toggle of a thing, and this toggle of a thing is supposed to have it to where the mech can go on and be manned without a person, and be able to do what they need to do to beat this meteoroid, the meteor. So now that that is to not go on and be a thing, Batman has seemed to now be forced to have to man this mech because Superman isn't going to do it, and so of course Batman doesn't trust anybody to do it but himself. So, because Superman turns to Batman at one point of like, "Hey, what are you going to do?" And he's like, "I'm going to fly this thing myself." And so Batman turns to Superman and it's like, "Goodbye," and he leaves. So Batman starts going to the mech, starts to hit the toggles, and is to eventually get close to shooting off this rocket. And Batman and Superman continue to fight here. And as when finally the mech starts to leave and Superman is looking off to see his friend like leave him, Superman turns to Lex and is like, "That was my best friend, and you just killed him." What a good line. So, as the rocket continues to make its way to the meteor, as Batman is looking on, Superman continues to fight Lex in his armor and uses heat vision, and Lex is even grabbing certain uh, like metal pieces to chuck at Superman, to where Superman in turn is to grab one piece of this metal thing that Lex grabs and chucks it into Lex's battle suit to have one of the feet stop um, propulsioning, rocketing off. So Superman can catch Lex because he's only has one leg that is kind of just firing off here. Uh, Lex tries to blast Superman with this kryptonite weapon, and Superman kind of gets his arm away. We then start to have Superman start to break off Lex's battlesuit arm and his battlesuit leg, and Superman turns to Lex and like, when does it end? Uh, and Superman says like, well, you know what? Like, I'll finally answer that question for you. It ends tonight. Just the cliche of it all. So, Batman makes his way to the meteor, and while still Superman goes on and heat visions now Lex's chest to try and destroy any kryptonite thing left within uh, Lex's bodysuit or battle suit, war suit. Don't have any idea what it's actually called. So we see off in the distance that Batman has finally made his impact, and the meteor explodes off in the sky. We have to assume that all is done well here, and so everybody is happy. Everybody's like, "Huzzah! Yeah!" Like they must have figured it out. So Lex turns to Superman. It's like, "Well, you can't touch me. I'm American soil now, and I'm the president." And so Superman ends up punching Lex. It's like, consider yourself impeached. Consider yourself revoked. You've just been revoked. I should have done that line a little bit better. Oh well, too late now. So Superman has a bit of Lex's armor still stuck to his hand, so he thrusts it off, and then meets up with both Power Girl and both Captain Atom. And Captain says to Soups here, it's like, well, I guess we covered a little bit too late. And so Power Girl grabs Superman. It's like, well, hey, like, I have a message from Toyman. Like, it looks like there's a chance that Batman could still be alive. So Superman's like, huh? And so he goes flying off to try and save Superman, all while Captain Atom grabs Lex in his armor and is like, and he throws him, or no, he grabs him and he's like kind of trudging him around because he's gonna put him in a prison cell for him to go away. And Lex is still trying to stop Captain Atom. I'm like, no, like what are you doing? Stay back, like you can't do this. Like that's an order from your president, because he's still doing this. So Superman goes on and find in orbit Batman still in, or I guess in this escape pod, I'm assuming, or this looks kind of like another Batwing that is kind of just lost in the space. But it's kind of probably like an escape pod from this mechanism, from this mech. So Batman is just kind of looking around. He's like, and so Superman finds him and takes the little escape pod that he's in and flies it all around town with the Superman Batman logo on it. Everybody's looking and they're like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And they're all just really happy and really proud. Both Superman and Batman get to a place where all these people are here and they're clapping and they're taking photos and they're cheering on their heroes as Lex is to get arrested and so Lex is like, God bless America, God bless me, and then pa. So uh, Batman ends up telling Superman, it's like, well, I don't think you have to worry about that murder charge anymore, and so it's like, well, yeah, it would have been a really interesting trial. All of a sudden, Superman notices off in the distance that there is this helicopter that has Lois Lane in it, and Superman turns to Batman and it's like, well, hey, like maybe you should stick around for a while. Lois and I would, and Batman's like, I can't, it's late. And Superman turns, like, no, it's not, it's early. As he turns, Superman is gone, realizing that Batman wants Superman to have his alone time with Lois. And like also like Batman always has something to do. He always has like some project to do, and plus also maybe he wanted to get some effing sleep. But yeah, but like it also is really interesting how like Batman never really sleeps, and how he's always needing some project to do. He always needs something to do. Uh, and so that is kind of the difference between both Superman and Batman. How like Batman always thinks that there's always a project to do, and so So with that said, I'm gonna get the heck out of here because I know that this took 2.5 freaking hours for an hour and change movie. So oh well. Like I know that this one was a bit of a long-winded thing for a movie that probably didn't deserve it, but whatever. Like I don't care at this point. I'll just go on and I'll just realize that no one will probably be interested in these videos, but like I'll keep doing them anyways. But if they are interested in these videos, I'll be shocked and surprised. Uh, and maybe people can also realize that they have a pause button or they have a stop button, and they can kind of watch these videos however they want to. And I will go on and state that regardless of how um, uh, some of these videos do well, and then some of them just like the Superman movie. Like I assumed people could have been interested in it, but I wasn't. Uh, I was expecting that thing to be just kind of a slow build of a thing because like everybody is kind of doing those videos, so it was kind of nice to just kind of see that video have some kind of impact right now. But um, I have to go on and do more bits of superhero content. I'm kind of having that itch right now. I also should probably go on and get into a lot of the stuff that I've been neglecting, but recently I'm just kind of going on and just kind of finding any kind of thing that may just be really interesting for me to want to actually tackle and cover. So, with that said, I'm just going to get the heck out of here so I can go on and cover probably another WWE uh, live event that seems to have gone on, and I probably should actually cover that. So, goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.